everyone, and welcome to Spacing Out. I'm Jason McClellan.
And I'm Maureen Elsberry. Thanks for joining us today.
There have been lots of interesting UFO-related stories in the news, so let's talk about some of these stories that have made headlines recently.
An assistant producer for Professor Brian Cox's BBC astronomy show, Stargazing Live, reported seeing a UFO over the town of Ednesford in Staffordshire, England.
On Friday, August 2nd, Keaton Stone posted the following message on his Twitter account. Okay, I know this sounds crazy, and I'm supposed to discount this kind of stuff, but I swear I have just seen a UFO over Cannock, Ednesford.
Stone contacted the local news site Cannock to see if anyone else had reported UFOs in the area. According to the site, no other reports had come in as of yet.
Stone posted the following description of the UFO on Twitter, genuinely not joking. It was turquoise, then white, and flying all over the place. There's the mother of all storms here as well. He admits that ball lightning was his initial guess as to what could explain the UFO, but he dismissed that possibility, explaining, this thing was literally quizzing around and up and down and all over the place. When someone suggested to him that the object could have simply been a Chinese lantern, Stone responded, performing crazy breakneck turns and maneuvers? Don't think so.
A friend saw the UFO too, but he and Stone are reportedly the only witnesses to report this UFO over Ednesford so far.
A witness captured video of a cigar-shaped UFO hovering above the Manchester town of Denton in England. It is unclear when the event occurred, but the witness uploaded the video to YouTube on July 9, 2011 with the following description. Huge UFO cigar-shaped metallic UFO object caught on camera in Denton, Manchester, UK 2011. Object was just visible to the naked eye, was in the sky for around 40 minutes before raising so high that it could not be seen at all. UFO means unidentified flying object. So I'm not saying it was little green men, but still, interesting to watch. The camera is so shaky because it was at full zoom, and knowing how high it appeared in the sky, higher than planes, I'm guessing its size was massive.
Some who viewed the video suggested the UFO might be a solar balloon. The witness even addressed this theory in the description that accompanies a second video, which is simply 51 seconds of footage from the original 1 minute 18-second long video he uploaded on August 17, 2011. The witness described, I was sat in my back garden when I noticed this. Some people have mentioned it may be a balloon of some sort, but it was a windy day and it hovered there for a while, then disappeared.
It's unclear why the witness uploaded a second video of the same sighting, but perhaps it was to garner more attention. He did title the second video, Best UFO Ever Recorded, after all.
The Huffington Post contacted Mark D'Antonio, the chief photo video analyst for the Mutual UFO Network, to get his opinion on the UFO video. D'Antonio opined, I believe it to be a solar balloon. It is of the silver Mylar type, and everything about its motion, shape, and color says it's a Mylar solar balloon to me.
Sirius XM Satellite Radio is the exclusive home of Art Bell's new UFO and paranormal radio show, Art Bell's Dark Matter.
Bell believes Sirius XM is the perfect fit for his new show. He explains, through invisible dark matter accounts for gravitational forces observed in the universe, expect these forces to be at work in the uncensored, unrestricted, creative arena of satellite radio, a medium with truly extraterrestrial reach.
Many paranormal enthusiasts know Bell to be an icon of late-night radio. Bell started broadcasting a paranormal-centered show in the late 90s, which eventually turned into the widely popular Coast to Coast AM, which can still be heard every night. According to the Sirius XM press release, from 1993 to 2000, Bell was one of the top 5 most listened to talk shows on the air. They estimate he had around 15 million listeners on the more than 500 radio stations that aired Coast to Coast AM. Due to family issues, Bell was forced to retire in 2000. However, he did return occasionally as a guest host. His last appearance over the airwaves was on Halloween in 2010.
Bell's new show is scheduled to launch on September 16th. Art Bell's Dark Matter will be live from 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific and will be rebroadcast all night on Sirius XM Indie Talk Channel 104.
A small UFO crashed in the Norfolk Virginia neighborhood of Ocean View on the evening of Tuesday, July 30th.
Local residents contacted authorities and emergency crews were dispatched to the location of the mysterious object at approximately 6 p.m. The Norfolk Fire Department, the U.S. Navy, and the Norfolk Bomb Squad were all reportedly dispatched to the scene.
According to WVEC ABC 13, the bomb squad used a robot to get a closer look at the square styrofoam box package in the street. The box had a balloon attached to it, and one person told authorities it was making a strange noise.
Nearby residents were evacuated from their homes and local traffic was restricted as investigators worked to identify the object. At approximately 8:40 p.m., authorities determined the object was likely a weather balloon from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility located on Virginia's eastern shore. NASA describes Wallops is now NASA's principal facility for management and implementation of suborbital research programs. Whether the object actually belongs to NASA is unknown.
The local media's coverage of the incident was mild and straightforward, but UK news site The Register asserts that something much more sinister took place in Virginia. According to The Register, people living and working in the immediate area were rapidly evacuated, and the district was sealed off by a combination of police and military personnel. The presence of operatives from shadowy federal agencies in overall charge of the incident was, of course, not mentioned by spokesmen briefing the media. Experts from NASA were even allegedly on site, and the Register reports that the mysterious object from the sky was apparently loaded onto an unidentified government vehicle and removed from the scene. Now, Maureen, this story is interesting to me because of the Register's account of it. And they're really the source that most people saw the story from, because you're not really going to see, local media reporting about a crashed weather balloon. It doesn't really make the UFO news rounds. But the Register, in my opinion, really blew this out of proportion and claimed things that I don't really see evidence to support of that. Shadowy governments and all of this other stuff going on.
They weren't even there. I mean, that's the thing, is you'd expect more news media, if they were local, to be blowing this story up. And there's pictures of the object visible on the ground. And when I first saw the story, I think I saw a separate source from the Register that made it obvious. It said some strange object fell from the sky, and then they had the boxer cover there, the styrofoam weather balloon. I don't think that I have any evidence of sinister activity here. I think this is an IFO and crashed.
Yeah, I think that's right. But this is a perfect case to illustrate just how conspiratorial some people like to be, because I know a lot of forums and conspiracy sites were going crazy with this story. And some were even doubting that anything even happened at all, because they're saying, oh, well, the Register posted it. I don't see evidence of any local media covering it. Yet in the Register's own story, they had links to the local media coverage of it. So I don't know. I mean, people like to create things out of nothing sometimes. It's always possible more happened here than the media is reporting to us, sure. But talking about shadowy governments and people being forced out of their homes, I mean, naturally, if the bomb squad comes in to investigate, they're going to evacuate the immediate area, and that happens a lot now in this country, especially after 9/11. We're kind of used to this.
Yeah.
So.
But let's talk about this other object that's more doubtful of what it is, even though it's most likely a solar balloon here. It's strange that this guy had re-uploaded this video from 2011, and what happened was a lot of people were publicizing it, making it sound like it was a new video. And then if you do a little digging and you click back a little bit, you find out, no, this is in fact from 2011. And I think I agree with Mark D'Antonio's assessment. The video does look weird though, but you can see that probably it's that mylar material that's reflecting the different colors when it's kind of shifting around.
We see a lot of these cigar-shaped UFOs, and in some cases I'm pretty sure that they are these solar balloons. So how often do we see solar balloons in the sky? I don't know about you, but I've never seen a solar balloon in the sky. So I imagine if one was in the sky, I would think it looks pretty darn weird. I wouldn't know what it is. But having seen what solar balloons look like in the sky with the videos and photos online, I can see how people would think that they're strange. And I will point this out, though, and it's a problem I have with the identification of solar balloons. From what I can determine, most solar balloons are black, though it makes sense because black would absorb the light. Right. They're black matte material that isn't really reflective. Mark D'Antonio asserts that this is a what do you say, like a chrome mylar or something?
Mylar, yeah.
Balloon that would be very reflective, and you'd see the sun doing weird things as this thing turns in the sky. So in this particular video, you see things that look like blinking lights, and that can be explained by a balloon twisting and having the sun reflect off it. And I don't know anything about solar balloons, certainly not enough to claim, oh, it obviously couldn't be a solar balloon because solar balloons are black. Mark probably knows that there are different types of solar balloons.
Maybe you should do a little research, Jason. Stop being so lazy.
Well,
just kidding.
I certainly could.
But I'd rather talk about this more interesting sighting, which is from London, this assistant producer of Stargazing Live, who's a complete skeptic. And we just happen to be sitting there, and I see his tweet all of a sudden, because I follow him on Twitter, that he saw a UFO. And this is really cool, because he even posted, I know I'm a skeptic, and this sounds weird coming from me, but I swear I saw this UFO. I don't know what it was. It was zooming around. It was different flashing colors, and he sparked a pretty good debate on his Twitter page about it.
He really did, and Alejandro and I talked about this a little bit on Open Minds UFO Radio. I love when this stuff happens where you have skeptics who witness something for themselves, and it really opens their mind at that point. I mean, the personal experience, that personal encounter, if you want to call it that, is really eye-opening for a lot of people. Sure, you can read things and hear other people say, well, I saw this, and I know it wasn't something I could identify. It's easy to dismiss that, but once you see it for yourself, it changes the way you look at everything, and it was really cool to see this unfold for him on Twitter. And
it's still an unidentified object. He put forward the possibility that since there was a major storm, that maybe it was ball lightning, but then he went and he looked up and looked at what the different ball lightning can look like, and he kind of stepped back and said, well, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, he was really fishing for answers and couldn't find one.
So I conversed with him briefly on Twitter, and he told us he would keep us informed about whether any other developments happen in this story, whether he finds more witnesses or maybe figures out if it becomes identified. So I'm still hoping more develops from this story.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm so glad it happened. Again, when skeptics experience something, it really can turn things around for them and also change how they perceive other people's sightings as well, because they go through the same things that a lot of people who have had sightings go through, with nobody believing what they say and trying to question, oh, well, that's not what you saw. You probably saw this. So it's cool, and I'm glad he reached out to us, and I hope he keeps us posted. If he finds anything, he probably won't, but very cool. Well, something else that's very fascinating that has been going on here. Well, UFO researchers are quite familiar with claims that military agencies around the world have spread disinformation regarding UFOs.
Our colleague Alejandro Rojas just finished an article for the upcoming issue of Open Minds magazine on this topic, specifically related to the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations. What he found during his research is really interesting.
Thanks, Jason and Maureen. The United States Air Force's Office of Special Investigations is also known as the OSI. This is part of an ongoing investigation we've been working on regarding UFO documents and information that has been allegedly spread by the OSI and a man named Richard Doty. This affair begins in the early 1980s when OSI agent Richard Doty says he was tasked as part of his official duty to feed UFO disinformation to a man by the name of Paul Bennewitz, a UFO researcher who also owned a humidity company and had contracts with the US government. Bennewitz's home and his office were adjacent to Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, the home of many top-secret projects. Doty says Bennewitz was observing some of these projects on the base, but had mistaken them for UFOs and extraterrestrial activity. Doty also states that instead of telling him the truth, he fed disinformation to perpetuate Bennewitz's belief that he was observing extraterrestrials. What I have covered so far is nothing new to UFO researchers, and there have even been a couple books written about this whole affair. However, what has not been covered in these books is the U.S. Air Force's official documents on Bennewitz. In our investigations, we were able to uncover files that show that Bennewitz did go to officers at Kirtland Air Force Base to tell him his concerns about photographs he took of UFOs and signals he was receiving that he thought were extraterrestrial, all coming from the base. The files indicate that Doty and another officer who had worked on Blue Book went to look at his evidence in October of 1980. Although they noted they could not identify the lights in the images, they were not certain they were of concern. In fact, the file says that their superiors decided further investigation was unwarranted. The next file in the Air Force documents is regarding a meeting with Bennewitz, Brigadier General William Brookshire, and several other officers at Kirtland Air Force Base. It notes that Bennewitz once again displayed his evidence of alien spacecraft and communications. He requested a grant to continue investigation of the anomalies. He was told that they would help him fill out the forms, however, it's not clear that he received a grant. Tom Dooley, a former NSA agent who spoke to the officer that filled out this report, said that no one was interested in his alien theories.
And basically what happened is that Bennewitz was talking about these signals coming from aliens somewhere in space, and to them, the people who were there and worried about what he was seeing and saying, they basically just eventually all got up and walked away. And in the end, they just thanked him for his time, and then he went on about his business.
The file then goes on to note that New Mexico Senator Harrison Schmitt called Kirtland to inquire about the investigation of Bennewitz. He was told by Doty that there was no investigation. Schmitt had met Bennewitz during his involvement with seeking to investigate cattle mutilations in the New Mexico area in 1979. The file notes that Schmitt called Kirtland several times in support of Bennewitz and seemed unsatisfied that they were not interested in investigating his claims. The final file in the Air Force documents on Bennewitz shows interest from another senator. It says that in late July of 1981, New Mexico Senator Pete Domenici paid a visit to Kirtland Air Force Base to meet with Doty and inquire about an investigation of Bennewitz and his evidence. Doty told Domenici the same thing he had told Schmitt, that there was no investigation. That is the extent of the Air Force files on the affair. However, years later, Doty came out claiming that although he told the senators there was no investigation, behind the scenes he was feeding Bennewitz disinformation, sometimes in the form of forged documents. He spoke to Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM about this in 2005. The implications to the UFO field are quite staggering, especially if the OSI knew about Doty disseminating disinformation. If the OSI did not know about this, could it be considered a criminal act on Doty's part? We're continuing to investigate this further, and I have issued more FOIA requests to find out more about what the OSI did or did not know. More about these official Air Force files can be seen in the upcoming issue of Open Minds magazine, and there will be a full-length, in-depth investigative report we will be sharing later. So stay tuned to openminds.tv for more.
Alejandro's article is really good, and I can't wait for everybody to read it. He's such a great researcher, and he specifically did a really good job on this story, so look forward to that. Well, that's all for this episode of Spacing Out. Be sure to visit openminds.tv for all the latest news, and if you're a podcast listener, go to openminds.tv/radio and check out Open Minds UFO Radio. And you can also find that show on iTunes.
We appreciate your feedback, so post your comments below this video on YouTube. Make sure to click on the like button if you enjoyed today's show, and remember to subscribe to our channel so you know when we post new content. Thanks again for joining us today. I'm Maureen Elsberry.
And I'm Jason McClellan. We will see you in the future.
UFO over the town of Ednesford in Staffordshire. I practiced it. Ednesford, Staffordshire.
I have just seen a UFO over Cannock, Ednesford.
Don't contact a local news site. Connect Cannock. Right? Connect Cannock to Cannock.
Most listened to talk shows on the radio. Well, we recovered.
Good Lord, that was a rough start.